Hello! Welcome to another episode of me just kind of goofing around on Space Engine. Today, I decided to display some of my more recent projects, which includes my prototypes for the for my variant of the E100. Honestly, I'm not sure which of the turret designs I like better, the flat top or the slightly curved top. Personally, I kind of like the slightly curved top better because the door actually works a lot better. This one kind of has some issues every now and again. Plus, also, this is more exposed than on that one. But like most of the tanks I spend time to develop, it does have a functioning interior.
Fuel critical.
When you can actually get around in it. I use that to store ice. Has a fair amount of ammunition capacity. And it has this little camera on top for spotting purposes, in case you want to get a good look at what's around you without having to compromise your tank's position. Or maybe you just want to see what's going on inside the tank from the outside. Just a little experiment I was doing. Turret does work, does all the turrenty stuff. Now the only downside is the machine gun is not set up to run with the current system. I thought about setting up a separate one, but in all honesty, I just figured if the main cannon gets blown off, you're probably still going to be pointing at it with whatever the rest of it, so you can probably just fire that at whatever it is. This one is almost identical. Well, actually, it's completely identical except for this part up here, which I changed on that model to make it a more convenient top design. Or at least not as tall. Oh, man, just for the reference, it does have a engine hatch, and this is the main ammo store. This one has the exact same system, same engine, same back hatch, just slight differences in design. And then there is the mouse. The mouse is enormous. You have one central hatch here, which leads to this control panel. Completely closable. Has an air vent. You can then leave, walk around the hull. This is the main refueling station. It has two large hydrogen tanks back there. Not small, large hydrogen tanks. Then you've got the ladder to get up to the top of the tank, where you have basically like 3 medium cargo containers hooked up to a really, really big gun. Now the funny thing is, the turret will not rotate normally. In order to rotate the turret, I had to install a gyro control system that allows the turret to rotate using gyro override. So the gunner actually does have to control the turret. And there is, of course, a hatch on top of it as well. I'm actually tempted to re-engineer this so that it has a system similar to that one. Instead of sticking this random gyro on top for, no reason. But also, this version has a railgun and a assault cannon, as opposed to the assault cannon. Then we have the Tiger 2 Yag Tiger variant. It's a Yag Tiger. Not much really to say about it. You access the back through here. Gives you a conveyor, or not a conveyor, but a connector, which is loaded with ammunition. Got your engineering hatch. And to access your crew compartment, you can get in through that hatch. Which separates it into this section, which has some spare repair parts. Accessing the gunnery position is just as simple as going down from there. Of course, it helps if I do it correctly. I could realistically reinstall this to be more similar to my other model. Oh, I still have machine guns in here and stuff. It's been a while since I've run this, so I had to revamp some things. I'm probably going to do some changes to make it more similar to this variant. This just has the conventional hatch. Okay, I'm not getting in that way. Then I have to go in through the turret. Well, just for reference, this is also where the engineering section is on this tank. And you have access to the ammunition through here, so you can manually reload it. And this button manually fires the machine gun. This is the commander's seat. Now the interesting thing is, I actually designed it so that when this is closed, you can technically look out through this way and this way. I originally intended this to be a little bit different, but unfortunately due to circumstances, that wasn't possible. So instead, when you want to look around, be like your commander, just looking around. Hello! You're slightly exposed, but there is at least some minor protection. Same basic setup. Got the gunnery chair right there. You can actually control the turret from the commander's seat. It's just, it requires a few extra steps. Select your gunnery control, and hit control. And you now have control of the turret. This allows you to control the gun from the commander's seat. Boop. Raise that up to make the doors a little easier to get to. And that's basically my variant of the Tiger 2. Now I do have a autocannon stuck to the front here. It does do all the things an autocannon's expected to do. Then we have the Tiger 1. It's everything a Tiger 1, everything you would expect a Tiger 1 to be. I use the same door panel design as that variant of the Tiger 2 for the Tiger 1. The Tiger 1 is slightly smaller than its big cat brother. I mean, it doesn't necessarily look smaller, but it is. Turns slightly shorter. The whole hull is basically slightly shorter. This is the loader hatch. Allows you to reload the ammunition through there. And just for the sake of argument, I included this little hatch back here to hold some small resources. It's, as far as I can remember, not piped into anything. I don't think I had this piped in. Yeah, it's not piped into anything. These are just storage containers, nothing else. Got your turn hatch, same basic chair design. Here's your ammunition, a couple of other extra ammunition containers in the turret. And like it says, you can still, you do the whole, I'm standing on the turret looking around. As you crouch down and hit the button, you're now in the turret looking around. Just some little stuff that I was working on. I personally like the design of this, as it makes the most functional sense. Now we enter into the less than functional sense. This is my Panzer IV. Not exactly the greatest.
Fuel critical.
Honestly, I am not satisfied with this at all. Keep wanting to do more modifications to it, try and fix the remaining issues. I did install 2 seats into it, but honestly, like it says, it's not one of my better designs. I really need to re-up you. Then we have the Panzer IV. This particular Panzer IV is a bit unique in the fact that it's fairly well armored in the front, but absolutely no armor anywhere else. And this absolutely terrible hatch. That hatch is terrible. It's the worst I've ever developed. But other than that, everything works. It does everything that you would expect a Panzer IV to do. Does have a driver and radio operator hatch, although the poor radio operator is literally sitting under their machine gun. Yeah, they're sitting under that machine gun because it's just a bit too big. The hatches don't work very well because the turn's in the way.
Fuel critical.
Driver's seat hatch does the same thing. However, if push comes to shove, you can just sneak in through here. You can board the tank from the outside if you can't get access to any of the hatches. Radio operator's a little finicky, but same basic deal. If you get just in the right position, you can board it from outside. The hatches are more decorative than functional. Of course, then we have the Panzer III. If you have a Panzer IV, you've got a Panzer III. Which is, the Panzer III is basically smaller in all respects compared to the Panzer IV. And I basically use the chair setup that I demonstrated on the Tiger 2 for the Panzer 3, so that technically you can still control the gun using that chair, but it's not as functional as literally just sitting in a command chair and accessing the controls. Disappointing, but it's how I designed it. I could rebuild the chassis to be a bit closer to the Panzer IV and thus a little bit bigger. The Panzer III also does not have the same kind of engine hatch as the Panzer III or Panzer IV. That's one of the other things the Panzer IV has. To reload the ice for the engine, it's got this little hatch right here, which I have concealed in the back of the tank. And there's a little bit of maintenance hatch right here. Panzer III, on the other hand, none of that. Then there is this APC I developed. It's loosely based on a actual German APC. Does all the necessary APC stuff. Has this little machine gun on top. Technically it has two of them.
Fuel critical.
Now, I really didn't want to set it up like this, but unfortunately that's just kind of how it got set up. I kind of want to turn the machine gun sideways. And it has room for a total of 8 personnel. Now, in addition to that, I also added a hood. This allows you to get into the engine, do some maintenance. Access to the O2 H2 generator is right there. And this is basically my German arsenal. I'm thinking of taking the Panzer III chassis and maybe modifying it into a Hetzer at some point. But for now, that's more just a pipe dream. Because as it stands, well, actually I might modify this into a Stug. Modify it into a Stug, not a Hetzer. But like I said, that's all going to require some modification, some heavy modification. But that's basically some of the tanks I've been working on. Right now, these two are my current projects. I am redesigning. Oh yeah, just for reference, this is how you get into the tank from the inside, the outside. This allows you access to the driver's side. And then there's a hatch right here that gives you access to the radio operator side. Boop. Close the hatch. And to drive it, you use the camera. It's not the fastest donkey that ever rolled, but doesn't have to be.
Fuel critical.
Now, I do try and include an interior in virtually all of these, except for some of those that are just too small.
Fuel critical.
Now, that event controller actually has a purpose. It shuts off this camera when no one is sitting in that seat. The other event controller shuts off this radar, or this radio, when no one is in that seat. See, now I have a radio. Now I have a radio signal. As long as someone's sitting in this seat, that radio signal's active. Get out of the seat.
Fuel critical.
Guess what? No radio signal. Like I said, these are all just some experiments that I was running. And like I said, I really do like building tanks. Little finagling here, a little fiddling there. Next thing you know, you've got something that looks really, really neat. So this is my tank arsenal and one armored car. Now technically armored APC. That I've currently built in Space Engineers. Figured I'd just show this off, give people some ideas of what they can do with Space Engineers. There's really no restrictions that you can to what you can do. You can make anything your imagination comes up with. It may not be perfect, it may not be the best that ever was, but compared to a lot of things, you can make anything you imagine. So I hope this inspires some future builders out there to try their luck and come up with their own designs. Have fun out there, y'all.